they also fixed the defense, went back to harder tackling drills, longer practices, inserted Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell came into his own. Jalen Carter, in my view, is an all-pro defensive tackle. And they're sending, a lot of people to the Pro Bowl on that defense, including Zach Bond, who's is an absolute revelation as a linebacker. And Zach Bond is close to leading the league in tackles. So they're a different defense. That game was the first game under the Vic Fangio defense.
Sal Paolantonio earlier today on Greeny, you talk about the difference between the Eagles' defense from week 1 to the first week of the NFL playoffs. It's a lot. We'll talk about that, the matchup, and more with former NFL tight end, host of the Colin Thompson Show, SiriusXM NFL Radio, Not For Long Media. How many more titles does this man have? Colin Thompson joins us first time in the new year. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year, brother. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to all out there. Happy holidays. It's great to be on the show, man. I love the snow days and all the fun that comes with that. So, hope you enjoyed the snow yesterday, my friend.
I did enjoy the snow. We did a good job, getting into the building here. Everybody out there. We had a lot of viewers on the stream today, and of course, a lot of people getting ready for the playoffs. In the weekend, you didn't have a lot of games with meaning, but the Eagles, they go to play the Packers, who lost the game. These two teams played all the way back in Brazil in week number 1. You just heard that Sal Pal bite. He talked about the difference. He mentioned Cooper DeJean. How different is this defense in your mind just because of them adding him to the mix?
I think he adds just that kind of Swiss Army knife, right? He can play in zone coverage. He can play in man coverage. These guys from Iowa, you see it at the tight end position. They're all pros that are ready to come in and play, right? They may not be drafted that high, but you're like, wow, that guy for that. Okay, Wirfs from the tackle for the Bucs, another Iowa guy. George Kittle, Iowa guy. Noah Fant, Iowa guy. Right? It just keeps coming. T.J. Hawkinson, Cooper DeJean. Right? They're just pros, so they handle it, and they can handle. You can see the way they move him around. Like, that's not a rookie. They put him back to the return punts, right? He's got a lot of responsibility. So he's had huge impact on that team, Mike. We all know how they struggled in the defensive backfield last year. And to add Quinyon and add Cooper to go with, the veteran presence that's already in that room, right, from the safety position to the corner position, it's a win-win. So he has huge impact, and what a great draft. This is Howie Roseman's one of his better drafts, right, with these two top corners.
Yeah, I want to get your take, too, on Zach Bond and just the season he's had and how this has happened. Here's a guy who's been in the league for 4 years. It wasn't like they drafted this guy, rolled him out there. He's been in the league. How were they able to get this level of play from him?
Well, it goes back to a clip of Vic Fangio, which blew me away. And he said, Howie Roseman sent him to me and said, Vic, I want your opinion. And Vic said, I think he's a Mike linebacker. I played against Zach in Carolina for 3 years. He's your classic special teams linebacker who plays the Sam position, who's kind of average size for that position. He's not small, but he's not TJ Watt, right? He's not JJ. He's not, Myles Garrett. He's not like he's so explosive off the edge where you got to set everything to him, right? He's just like a solid player. Probably play like 8 years in the league, right? Well, not so fast. When I played against him, I was like, yeah, okay, great. I can play Zach Bond. You're not losing sleep, right? Now, you're losing sleep over him. I mean, credit to Vic to see him as a Mike linebacker. He never really played it. He played a little bit in college. And he devastates the thing. He's long. He's rangy. He has pass rush experience from his time to playing the Sam linebacker on the ball. He can run in coverage. He's tough. He plays hard. Coming from another great college program in Wisconsin, right through their heyday, properly coached, understand defense, understand structures. I mean, they popped him in there, and he's been balling all season long. So what a home run signing. Great job by Howie and their defense and Vic. Perfect fit for Vic. He's changed their defense, right? Because the linebacker position they never invest in. They got him cheap. They should pay him, in my opinion. The defensive line, they took a hit when Hassan left, right? And they've lost guys throughout the years, a war of attrition there. So, for him to step up and play, I don't think they're the same defense without him.
Colin Thompson's with us. Colin Thompson Show, SiriusXM NFL Radio, Not For Long Media. Colin, you take a look at this team. We just talked about two new pieces to the defense. Bond, the linebacker, Cooper DeJean. They obviously have other ones, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie there. But the one guy who was here last year, two guys really, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter. I want to get your take on playoff team. Do they have enough pass rush for the playoffs?
That's a great question. I'm not going to sit here and say they do from the sense that this is the best group they had. I think they have enough to get it done, Mike. But is it the best group the Eagles have had in the last 5 years? No way, right? I mean, when they had, the D-line depth, just from the interior spot, right? You saw that success they had, right? You saw with the edge rushers, right? With the plethora from Brandon Graham and Vinny Curry, and right? It felt like Chris Long. It felt like they had like 5 guys, and they're doing the old hockey line change. But that's not the case anymore. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I heard Gruden talking about on like a Barstool Sports podcast the other day, like, hey, you know what? Sometimes I got to burn a timeout because I don't want to pull Warren Sapp off the field. Like if Jalen Carter's tired and you have a timeout to burn late in a game and it's not going to help the offense too much, then like maybe you call a timeout and give Jalen a little bit of a breather so he can go get the quarterback. So, it's not the same, Mike, but they have a really good, strong first line. But what's the depth look like? And it's always a war of attrition. And that's why at the trade deadline, you always see people trading mid-round picks for premier pass rushers. So not the best they've had in years, but I think they have enough to get it done for sure.
All right. We've been talking about who's the most important player for a deep playoff run. And obviously, you got Jalen Hurts. He has not passed the concussion protocol. He has to practice first. He is scheduled to practice, I guess, tomorrow. And then once he practices, have you ever gone through the concussion protocol? Do you know what has to happen here? Because this has been a little weird.
Yeah, so I've never gone through it, thankfully. I've had my fair share, but never really went through it. So what happens is you take a baseline test when you show up for training camp in August. Sometimes you get it done before you leave, so you don't have to do it in August. So let's just say you're doing it sometime between April and August. You're getting it done. You're in the training room. You go on the iPad. You do like kind of a mental test. It's hard. Right, they're flashing colors and logos, and you got to click buttons, and it's somewhat taxing. And then you get a grade, right? That's your baseline grade. You take another one a little later. That's like more of a physical grade, right? And then they give you like a baseline score. That's the score you got to get near. So for Jalen, right, they probably test him. I don't know, maybe once every other day. And if he's not clearing that test, they won't let him go. They won't let him out to practice. I don't know that protocol. From that standpoint, I didn't really want to know about it. Thank goodness that I didn't have to learn about it. But there's tests that they have to pass from a physical perspective and then a mental perspective before you can go onto the field.
So he has not passed it to the point where he's practiced. Once he practices, then they can say, all right, you went through a full practice. You are now cleared. So the anticipation would be that he should play on Sunday. He's been out since the first quarter of the Washington game. So we're going almost 4 weeks. Colin, does that worry you that, hey, the quarterbacks have played in 4 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Mike, I'm pretty positive and optimistic. But, I think the nice thing for a guy like Jalen is, he's not sitting around. He's not hanging out. He is training. He is lifting. He is running. He is doing everything they're giving him the green light to do. Right? So I'm sure the first day they let him lift, he's in there grinding. I'm sure the first day he's allowed to be, not be sensitive to light. Sometimes with concussions, your eyes are sensitive to light. So maybe he's watching film with the protective goggles on so his eyes don't get messed up. I mean, you never know, right? That guy's going to find a way. That's why I've never bet against Jalen Hurts. That's why last year when I joined your show, I'm like, okay, he's not the same guy. I get it. He's not the guy maybe you thought he'd be, this A-plus tier 1 quarterback. But I think he's firmly in tier 2. Right, and that's just kind of who Jalen is. He's that quarterback who's like somewhere between 5 and 10 when you come to ranking NFL quarterbacks. So it concerns me, but he's such a pro and veteran that I think they're going to get him going. And I know we'll transition to Green Bay here. I think it's a great draw for the Eagles, and I'm excited to see how it goes. Man, they've had a great year, and what a ride it's been compared to maybe last year where it was such a roller coaster ride at the end of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned Green Bay, and it's a great draw for them. Why is it, when you take a look at matchups, you're a guy who's played in the league, and it's like, hey, I play for Carolina, we're playing against X. That's not a good team, but we just don't match up well with them. We could play against a better talent, but we match up better with them. How does Philadelphia match up with Green Bay that you like this matchup?
Well, I mean, you just think of the rest of the teams really in the NFC, right? Like, and again, this takes nothing away from Coach LaFleur. This takes nothing away from Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs. They got a good team. Like, it's going to be a great game. But, like, do you want to face Sean McVay and Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp? I don't know. Do you want to face the Vikings, who, yeah, they had a bad loss the other night, but, like, that's not who that team is. So, okay, great. You know, I think the Bucs would be a good draw. Do you want to face the Commanders again? I don't know right now. They're trending in a good direction. So, like, to me, it's a great draw. I think they could beat all those teams. Don't get me wrong. I think they're the premier team, you know, other than Detroit and Minnesota in that division. And you can argue with the health of the Eagles right now. They could be a better team than Detroit. But it's a great draw. At home, Packers, Sunday afternoon game.
What is
going to be rocking?
What does the loss of Watson, in your mind, do for their offense?
Wow. I mean, listen, man, anytime you're losing a top weapon, right? We know it. They're going to move the coverage here. They're going to move the coverage there. Green Bay is a little bit more of a committee approach, if I remember correctly, right? They spread it out a bit.
They got Reed. They've got Dobbs.
Yeah.
And Watson kind of the big, you know, he's like the stretch the field guy.
Yeah, their tight end got hurt this year, I believe. So, you know, this isn't a team where you're like, oh, boy, the Eagles got, you know, Devonta, and they got all these different people. It's a different, right? Eagles have like 4 number ones if you include their tight end. So it's a different team. The back is the guy. You know, Josh Jacobs is the truth. He is a real deal. He's Scott Holden at the Seaview in Cape May yesterday with the only bar being open. So I had to give that plug in there. So that's, to me, what I would be, you know, concerned with is Vic's going to say, okay, we got to stop the run. That's how they're built off anyways. That big 5-man front, Zach Baum is running around because he's not double teamed. So, you know, I'm curious to see how they handle that, Mike. That's going to be the game that's inside the game, but not facing a true number one receiver, you know, is huge. It's huge for the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I know that the first time they played, it was kind of a back and forth. 34-29 was the game. You know, he had a huge game from Saquon Barkley, 3 touchdowns. He had like 130 scrimmage yards. A.J. Brown, 67-yard touchdown. He had a big night there. But when you take a look at the big thing here, the Eagles' offensive line, we were talking about how the most important player on this team for a deep playoff run, if that offensive line is healthy and cranking, that's who that's kind of who you hang your hat on almost every single week.
No doubt about it. It needs to be, that's where the money is. That's where the draft pick is. That's where everything is, right? Period. Like left to right, everyone's paid or has been highly paid or highly drafted. So we needed to work out. I think Cam Jurgens in the first game, I did a little cut up on him when I watched it. He made some nice plays, but he just didn't look as comfy as he does now, right? That's what goes to expected, right? You sit behind Jason Kelsey for 3 years or whatever it was, and you come into the center spot, and it's your first regular season game, and you're playing in Brazil, right? So now he's a little bit more comfy. You know, the whole line's really special. It's been great to see what Becton has done, another great signing for Howie Roseman. Obviously, the 2 bookend tackles are elite players. Landon Dickerson, the left guard, is a moose. That's why the tush-push works. Everyone's like, oh, Jalen Hurts is a stud. Absolutely, he squats the house in a stud. But it's the left side of Mailata and Dickerson, which really makes it go. Like, you don't get a bigger – there's never been a bigger left side of an offensive line ever. I can't imagine. 330 and 380 or whatever. Like, that's just stupid. They just cave it in. So I agree, Mike. At the end of the day, hello, Saquon Barkley. Hello, play action pass. It's going to be just a dose of it and tush push. And the Eagles are just going to pull away by 2 scores, in my opinion. They're just too good defensively now, to hear what Sal Pal said. And they're offensively. The weapon of the offensive line is the most important player or position group or whatever you want to say. Especially they're all rested. I'm looking forward to seeing play this weekend.
All right, couple quick hitters. Minnesota, that performance on Sunday night. Does that make you worry that maybe they're a one and done?
It doesn't. I think, to me, they brought a lot of pressure. Aaron Glenn's a really good coordinator for Detroit Lions. Everyone talks about Ben Johnson. He's elite. But Aaron Glenn in D.C. is elite. Very few players were drafted high, like first-round picks like Aaron was, and you'd be a great coach, too. I think Sam got spooked a little earlier, got lit up a couple times, and a couple of, the ball sailed on him. You could see it, right? He got a little anxious in the pocket. Great route conversations. Guys are getting open. He just kind of floated on it. So, I played with Sam. He's a tough kid. He'll bounce back. That defense is good. They're going to burn that tape. That's my guess. Just literally light it on fire. Don't even watch it. And let's move on to the Rams. They went there and won this year, I believe, too. So they'll have some experience there, and they know the McVay stuff. It's all the same offense they run. So the defense won't have to prepare as much.
All right, Washington and Tampa I find interesting. Tampa has been a team that's given the Eagles problems. They beat them this year. Washington beat them this year. Tampa's at home here, but they got to face Jaden Daniels. Initial thought on that one?
Yeah. Listen, I'm a Baker Mayfield diehard fan. Played with him in Carolina, too. You can never bet against Baker. That's kind of his juice, but I would this week. I think Washington's got some really good juju, a little bit more mojo going. a little bit more health. I like Washington. I like Jaden Daniels. I love Dan Quinn. They've really impressed me. I think Washington.
All right, let's go to the Saturdays. Chargers with that really good defense. Houston is, this team had a lot of high expectations. They did win 10 games, but it just feels like they've really were flat all year long. A lot of injuries.
Yeah, I was down there on Christmas Day watching the Ravens game, the old Beyonce halftime show. Very nice show, by the way, Mike. And, I just think for me, like at the end of the day, like when's Houston going to turn it on? If they turn it on, they can win a Super Bowl. They got the talent. But you're right. The injuries of the offensive line has hurt them. Bobby Slowick went from this huge, big coordinator candidate with C.J. Stroud to they're just been okay. So, it's kind of an unknown there, Mike. And I think that scares some people. And I think it scares me. I think we know what the Chargers are. And I think it's a good story. And I think we wake up Monday saying, wow, man, this another Harbaugh brother. Maybe we may get Ravens Chargers in an AFC Championship game. So it's pretty cool. And I like the Chargers.
Well, you just talked about Ravens. They got Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's lost 4 straight, haven't scored 17 points or more in any of the 4 straight losses. They feel like they're just limping their way to get blasted by Baltimore.
Yeah, these teams that limp in, man, like Texans, right? Pittsburgh, you don't just turn it on. I'll be at the game this weekend too. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. But I like Baltimore. They're not limping in. They're playing well at the right time. Their corners are making plays. They got good confidence. Obviously, you got to play the game. But these teams that are dominant, they're going to remain dominant in the playoffs.
Last one is Denver, Buffalo. Feels like no one even knows much about Denver. But man, Nix has played great. I was way off on him. I thought he would be a bust. He might be the best of the rookies, even with Jaden Daniels. Their defense gets a lot of pressure. Buffalo, man, there's a lot of weight on the Josh Allen shoulders.
Yeah, great point. Early in the season, when Kansas City barely beat the Broncos, I went and watched the tape, and I'm like, wow, this Bronco team is actually really good. I don't even know half these guys' names on the team, other than Mike McGlinchey and Mike Burton. They're my two buddies in football, right tackle and fullback. I'm like, I got to watch this team. It's pretty good. So they're a pretty good team, Mike, but I don't think they're going to keep up with Buffalo. A lot of the coaching staff from Buffalo's up for big jobs. Joe Brady, all these guys, right? They're going to be humming and ready to go. This is a Super Bowl year. It's an MVP year for Josh Allen, even though I do think Lamar should get it, but that's neither here nor there. I think Joe Burrow should get it. That's neither here nor there. So for me, Mike, I like Buffalo. This is a big year for them and a year they should win a Super Bowl.
All right, that's Colin Thompson from SiriusXM NFL Radio. Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media, former Carolina Panthers tight end, and right here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. It's the Eagles and the Packers this Sunday, 4:25 on 97.3 ESPN. All right, buddy, we'll catch up with you soon.
See you, brother. Have a good one.